Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
My friends and I always tune into the Todd Levitt Law Show. Todd is entertaining, informative, and always delivers the goods.
Todd might not tell you what you want to hear, but he's going to tell you what you need to hear. And all you got to do is listen.
Hold on, Todd. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Marijuana Law Podcast. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting in the middle of the mitten, a beautiful, depending upon where you're at, a white nutrient field, a green nutrient field, but it's still a nutrient field. Craig Russell, the muscle from the Black Diamond Group Mothership, my good friend and yours. How you doing, my man?
Fantastic. December 1st has come, and what has that meant for the state of Michigan, Todd?
Recreational dispensaries dispensing recreational cannabis to those who are 21 years of age and older. Obviously, there were stories all over, especially in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with one of the few recreational dispensaries. They were lined up, looked like for a mile to get into that place.
Yeah, because there's a lot of places that are not opened up. I know Traverse City is delaying some things a little bit, but other places are opening up. So it's a banner day. Is this show basically done now? Are we over? Wasn't the whole show basically about talking about the law, but getting it passed? And now that everything is passed and open, or do we still have a show to do?
Well, we always say at the end of the show now, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. But the good times are going to continue right here in the Black Diamond Group Mothership, podcasting and broadcasting with recreational cannabis across the great state of Michigan, pure Michigan, baby. And, they say Michigan outside the state of California. People tell me I don't pronounce the R in California enough. So I like to just say California real quick.
Oh, okay.
California. But outside the great state of California, Michigan is the second largest producer and consumption of cannabis in the world.
Really? In the world?
I don't know. I'm just saying so. We'll have to ask Willie Nelson.
Yeah, Willie Nelson. We've got a story about Willie Nelson coming up. That's going to be a good one. How was your weekend? What'd you do? Did you do anything exciting this past weekend?
4 words, Craig. 4 words. Global Fat Bike Day. Once again.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Epic Mountain Bike Group out of Lansing, Michigan, located in the southern part of the mitten. southern northern. I don't know. I'm in the middle of the Mitten. They're to the south of us where East Lansing MSU is. Sleepy Hollow State Park hosted epic mountain bike group, 300-400 people, just having fun, just going. We went for a ride yesterday. Big Hair was there and all the boys. It was a great turnout. There were gifts and raffles and free food. It was just outstanding. So big shout out to everyone from Epic. And right here in the middle of the Mitten where we are residing, it's still white. It's snow. I mean, we got pounded last week with an ice and snowstorm. But just to the south, it's dry.
So when Big Hair comes and brings his fat bike or his mountain bike, does he put it on top of the Prius? Does he got it standing up on the Prius, or does he have a truck or something?
Yeah, he actually tows a trailer on his Prius, if you can believe that.
Okay.
Yeah. And the trailer is bigger than a Prius. It's ridiculous.
How is that possible?
I have no idea. Why do
I find that so funny that he hauls a trailer that's bigger than the Prius behind the Prius, wearing his flannel and everything? I miss Big Hair. We got to get Big Hair back on the show sometime. We haven't had
Big Hair, and he's too busy mowing the yards of his neighbors and plowing snow when it snows without permission. Now, Big Hair is definitely coming back in the show. It's good to see him. I was sporting my Bond Traeger 5-inch tires on my fatty Trek yesterday. It was a good ride. It was fun. Look, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If there's something that you love to do and you're surrounded by those who enjoy doing the exact same thing or things, that's what it's all about. It's about the people. And to me, that's what it's all about. But hey, Craig got a couple. We have a huge show, by the way.
Big show.
As I mentioned a moment ago, I mentioned Willie Nelson's name. So we definitely want to talk about what everyone was talking about last week, that Willie Nelson, I think he's 86 or 87, no longer smokes weed. We need to talk about that.
Yes.
And I also have an update on my chicken dilemma last week. If you recall, do you recall the conversation how I don't know if it was a complaint. It was more of a complaint. Like, why are the owners of all these chickens always allowing them to like peck on the side of the roadway when you're driving your vehicle? I got about 100 answers, and they're all the same for that. Do you know what the answer is for that one?
I don't know what the answer is. I couldn't figure out why they would. I thought maybe they were getting to the salt on the side of the road, after like a snowstorm, or when they put the salt down, that the salt hangs around and then that's what they're pecking. I didn't know.
No, Eugene told me about the salt. So there's a big shout out to Eugene and all the iron workers, because he's an iron worker. I love Eugene. Now, he gave me the information about the salt and the deer. It's because the gravel, apparently chickens, they consume gravel like stones and whatnot. And I had no idea. Next time I have chicken for dinner or lunch, I'm going to think twice when I'm chewing to see if anything is ending up in between my teeth. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but a dozen people said, "Hey, Todd, we heard your show. It's gravel." And I said, "Gravel what?" And they said, "The chickens like to eat gravel on the side of the roadway."
See, I always thought chickens were a smarter animal. Maybe it's turkeys I'm thinking of that are not that smart or smarter or something, but why would they eat gravel?
No idea.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
That's crazy. I guess I never would have thought that. Aren't turkeys supposed to be like a smart bird? I thought they were like a really intelligent animal. That was going to be our nation's mascot before the eagle. That's what Ben Franklin.
Again, Craig, you're asking me. I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things.
Yes,
nothing about farm animals, domesticated animals like that. Clueless, obviously. But hey, Craig,
you can tell you grew up in the city. It's true. You did.
We got a couple things. The 30th anniversary of Full Metal Jacket has taken place, and there's a lot of great videos with Donna Frio and all of the actors who were in that movie. What a great movie, Full Metal Jacket. I've seen it like 50 times. So big shout out to that movie and everyone that was in that movie. Again, Willie Nelson no longer smoking weed. He says that he's having trouble breathing, but Willie Nelson acknowledges that for years, he was a heavy cigarette smoker. So I don't know if it's from weed or if he truly has stopped smoking weed, but there was an article, I don't know if it was in Rolling Stone magazine, where he said on the cover that weed saved his life. But we love Willie Nelson nonetheless.
Well, that's something that we know here and big advocates on this show of, that the medicinal purposes of marijuana can do that. And also possibly, being a musician and being in Hollywood and being around a lot of temptation, it's possible there are a lot of things that he could have been doing that could be far worse for him than, every once in a while smoking a little weed, or actually every day smoking a little weed. But I wonder if this just means, he's just going to eat it, edibles, instead of smoking it? Is that the problem?
Again, no idea. I have no idea.
Do you know anything at all, Todd? I know you do.
You know what I know? I know that on our show today, we're going to be talking about misdemeanor and the consequences of having a misdemeanor conviction on your record.
Okay.
There's in each state across the country, and we have every state out there downloading this show, so we appreciate that. In all the 30 to 40 countries now all over the globe and the planet that are downloading the show, we appreciate that because we're on every single podcasting platform that exists. But we're going to be talking about different types of misdemeanors from, malicious use of telecommunication services to disturbing the peace. What are the penalties for that? Operating with the presence of alcohol in your system, nuisance party, attending, hosting. What if you write a check and there's no funds in the account? So we're going to be talking about all kinds of misdemeanor offenses in the state of Michigan. And I looked it up. A lot of these offenses and the penalties are similar.
Yeah, they really are. And, there's not a lot of differences between the states. There's differences between countries. If you go to Canada, as opposed to the United States, there's some broad differences in the laws. But a lot of the states, there might be a little quirkiness here or there. But for the most part, most of the states in the Union have about the same kind of laws, especially when it comes to things like misdemeanors. But we'll get into that in a little bit. A little birdie tells me you might have a complaint about something, Todd.
My complaint is one we've often talked about on the show here, and it happened again last week. It's my number one complaint when operating a motor vehicle, other than people texting. I think people texting is my top complaint. I'm tired of looking over at vehicles on highways and seeing operators just looking straight down into their laps. I mean, it just freaks me out every time I see it. So that kind of freaks me out. But once again, I approach a four-way stop sign, and when it was my turn to go, a vehicle heading in an opposite direction jumped the spot and proceeded to go through the four-way stop. So I always make a habit of hesitating. If I'm at a red light and it turns green, I hesitate just to make sure it's cleared in both directions before I proceed. And let me tell you something, that has proved to be very safe and successful. We all have witnessed people out there running through lights as they change. But the four-way stop is my biggest pet peeve. I mean, are you in that much of a frickin' rush that you can't just hesitate a second and wait your darn turn while I proceed on my way to wherever it is that I am going? I mean, come on, people. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
It truly pisses me off. You know what? It really does. It irks me. And we've all had to deal with this before. But I'm just saying to people out there, just slow it down, chillax. Find yourself something that allows you to relax, that's legal to do so, and just chillax, for God's sake. Stop being in such a darn hurry.
Just settle down, people. That's the other thing.
Come on.
But I'll tell you this much.
Christmas is upon us, folks.
Yes.
So just slow it down.
Now, all about this just like I do. You know that the pace of life in the place where you live and where the show is based out of is a lot different than the pace in other places. Bigger areas, bigger cities. It doesn't matter what state you're in. If you're in Atlanta or Los Angeles or Denver or New York City or Cleveland, you're in a city, it's a lot faster paced. In mid and central and northern Michigan, it's a lot slower pace. And even there, people are in big hurries. You just need to settle down. Slow down.
I find that minivans are notorious. I mean, why is it every minivan I look at looks like it's been in, like a NASCAR race? I mean, it just looks like it's been in one of those bumper bowls or whatnot. I don't know what it is with minivans, but minivans look like they're always coming off some smash and crash event. So it's the minivans and it's the young folks. I mean, look, I admit when I was younger in my 72 Grand Torino with the floorboard rusted out and my Fred Flintstone feet sticking out of the floorboard, I used to haul tail up and down Woodward Avenue because, I grew up in Berkeley right there along Woodward. So, but it's usually young people And I'm sorry, ladies, it's the ladies who seem to tailgate the most and are in the biggest rush. But that's because they got to get the kids to school, get the kids ready, get them off to school, and then they have to get to work. So I understand how moms are in a rush quite a bit. And there's a lot of single fathers out there that we love and we know who do a great job as single fathers. But it's usually the moms who are in a rush. And just slow it down, ladies. Just slow it down. We love the ladies. We love the ladies. It's ladies in minivans for whatever reason.
I haven't had to say this in a while, but Todd Levitt Law Show at gmail.com for your complaints. Todd Levitt Law Show.
What are you talking
you
about?
know exactly what I'm talking about.
Come on. Willie Nelson no longer smoking weed is enough to disrupt anybody's morning. Come on
I understand.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to take a break. When we come back, we will get into misdemeanors. We got some other things to touch on. It's the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting in the Black Diamond Group mothership in the middle of Mitten, a beautiful white and green nutrient field, depending upon where you're located. Coming back strong, Craig, with one of my all-time top 50 groups dating back to the 80s, The Cult. You know, She Sells, The Cult. And we played that mixed version today because I love how it's almost like electronic music of these generations where it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and then boom, it just goes right into it. I love that.
You know, my favorite Cult song is Firewoman. Love that song. Fire, smoke, she is a rising fire. Love that song by the Cult.
Yeah, that's not even karaoke worthy.
No,
right
that's
there.
really not.
No,
No,
that's if this was a voice, I'm not turning my chair. I'm just saying.
Well, you know what? And it's interesting because you played the Cult and talking about Firewoman. That's a song from my days at CMU. And before we get a whole lot further into the show, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the untimely passing of Don Chido. If you are from the Central Michigan area, if you went to CMU and you're a CMU alum, or you go to CMU right now, or you live in this area, or you listen to 98.5, Don Chido was the broadcaster for CMU football and CMU men's basketball. He'd been doing it on and off for around 15 years. Don tragically lost his life on Wednesday night in a wreck with a semi-truck on M46 just outside of Alma. I feel really bad for Kim and his daughters. Our prayers go out to he and his family. He was not only a good broadcaster, but just a good guy all around. I got to know him pretty well working at 98.5. Of course, we're the flagship station of CMU Sports, and got to know him well over the past few years. And I saw that on Wednesday night. I logged on to Facebook, and my friend Patty Williamson, who teaches at CMU, had mentioned that. And I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden, it only happened like 3 hours before that. And I started going back through and looking through all these people posting on Facebook about it. Don worked at Central Michigan Investments. He was a good family man, was just a good guy all around. Never heard anyone say anything bad about Don Chido, and he will be sorely and sadly missed. And it's just tragic when you see something like that happen. You say it all the time. You say it all the time. How do we end the show, Todd?
We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time.
And unfortunately for some of us, we're just not here for long enough. He was a young man.
He was great.
Yeah,
he was
really was.
Man, I'm a Central Michigan alum, and even if you're not alum, he was so professional and did such a great job. Yeah, and definitely saddened by that for sure.
Very much so. He will definitely be missed. There's going to be a big hole. And of course, the Chips played in the MAC championship game yesterday. They're going to be going to a bowl this year, so it's almost there was a big hole yesterday in the broadcast, and so again, our hearts and our prayers, real ones, not the internet thoughts and prayers or Facebook thoughts and prayers, real prayers and real thoughts go out to Don's family, his wife and his daughters, and everyone whose lives he touched, because he touched so many. He was such a proud Chippewa and a proud supporter. He went to CMU, worked in radio throughout most of the state, was in Traverse City, did TV for a while, but came back to his first love, which was CMU sports. And there was probably no bigger fan, no bigger supporter of the Chips than Don Chido, and he will be missed. We'll miss you, buddy. Not meaning to bring the show down, but, we did have to mention that because, again, he was a big, not only on 98.5, which we've been running the games for several years, but just a big person in the community. He was on the Mount Pleasant Board of Education. He was just a good guy all around. So, Todd,
well put, Craig. Well said.
Thank you. You were going to talk about misdemeanors. And now, for me, being a layperson who is not necessarily as law savvy as you, so for me, being a layperson, explain the difference between a civil infraction, a misdemeanor, and a felony, because I don't know the law like you do. What are all three of those based on?
Well, civil infraction, at least in the state of Michigan and other states, it varies. For instance, a civil infraction in the state of Michigan is anything that has to do with speeding, for instance. So if you're operating a motor vehicle or any motorized vehicle on a public roadway, and you could also be ticketed for operating ORVs, off-road vehicles on ORV trails. But typically people think of civil infractions as a speeding ticket, a 5-over speeding ticket. You're operating a motor vehicle in a 25-mile-an-hour zone, and an officer stops you, he or she clocks you, and they give you a ticket for 5 to 10 over. Now, that's a civil infraction. It's not under the criminal penal code, so there's not going to be a warrant issued where you have to post bond and you're placed under arrest. Typically, you're given a ticket. You have so much time in which to appear. Failure to appear, at least in the state of Michigan, results in a FCJ, failure to comply with a judgment and suspension of your Michigan operator's license. So if you are somebody out there and you receive a civil infraction and you fail to either request a informal hearing at the court within the allotted time located on that ticket, then, if you don't request that hearing and do nothing with the ticket, you're going to receive a suspended license and an FCJ on your driving record to failure to comply with a judgment. So you definitely want to, 1, pay the fine, or 2, notify the court that you would like to contest the allegations. That's a civil infraction. It's not under any criminal code, at least in the state of Michigan. Now, in other states, though, a civil infraction in the state of Michigan could be a misdemeanor in the great state of Ohio to the south of us here. Or Indiana.
All right. So what is a misdemeanor then?
Misdemeanor is, now you're talking under the, the penal code, the PENAL code, the penal code or the criminal code. A misdemeanor in the state of Michigan carries under the criminal code anywhere from 0 up to a year in a county jail. In some cases, misdemeanors can be high misdemeanors where they could carry more maximum amount of jail time. So it's really important to understand the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony. Most misdemeanors in Michigan, if not all misdemeanors, in fact, they all do, they stay in the district courts as opposed to the circuit courts, which are courts of higher jurisdiction that handles all the felony charges in the state of Michigan.
So, like, a felony is obviously the most serious. That's where, like, grand theft larceny, or if you murder somebody, that's a felony. A misdemeanor, more serious than a civil infraction, but not nearly as serious as a felony.
Typically, a felony is defined, imprisonment for more than 1 year. So it's usually a year and a day. Anything more than 1 year is typically how you could think of a felony. A felony, for instance, in the state of Michigan, if you are convicted of a third offense, drunk driving, that is a felony, and that carries a minimum of 30 days by statute onwards and upwards. So you're definitely, if you're convicted of a third offense felony, you're looking at 30 days minimum. Felonies can be malicious destruction of property over a certain dollar amount. A misdemeanor could also be an MDOP, malicious destruction of property. For instance, if you destroy someone's personal property and it's only valued at $50, well, that would be considered a misdemeanor, as opposed to a felony where you destroy someone's automobile for whatever reason, which nobody should do, and then, there's thousands of dollars worth of damage. So MDOP is considered a felony as well. Also, there are misdemeanor offenses that increase in penalties once you accumulate 3, 4, 5 misdemeanors. There are also statutes on the books, at least in the state of Michigan and other states that I've researched, whereby it's enhanced to a felony because you have so many now. So, that's the difference between a civil infraction, a misdemeanor, and a felony. I'm just kind of touching the surface of it. But, for instance, embezzlement under $200 carries 0 to 93 days in Michigan. That's embezzlement under $200. Embezzlement is when you are entrusted to manage, certain funds on behalf of a business, for example. Okay. Then you can embezzle money. Don't not embezzle money, but if you do, and it's under $200, it's a misdemeanor. And as you go higher in dollar amount, it's obviously a felony. So, there's, in Michigan, we saw for years people, when reefer madness was at its height, you had men and women who were operating motor vehicles with marijuana. This is before medical marijuana, and even after, who were transporting certain amounts of cannabis, and they were charged with multiple counts of delivery and manufacturing of a controlled substance. Those were 4-year felonies. Resisting obstructing a police officer is also a felony. It's not a misdemeanor, it's a felony. There are certain crimes in the states throughout the country that, because of the nature of the crime, is a felony, and there's no misdemeanors to reduce it to.
So we wanted to kind of touch upon what the difference between the 3 main offenses are, and I know you wanted to talk about certain misdemeanors that we haven't talked about at this point, and we'll do that. We have to take a break on the Todd I Love the Law show.
What are you talking about?
I know.
That's a misdemeanor, Craig. You don't have permission to take a break. In the state of Michigan, ending the segment without attorney Todd L. Levitt finishing his thought carries 0 to 93 days in jail, up to $500 in fines, community service, and you know what else, Craig? We're going to hit you with that BS random drug testing. So you're going to have to get color-coded testing. So you better, away you go, man.
You reach over the console and you put me under citizen's arrest, and we'll figure that all out. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll touch more upon the misdemeanors in a minute on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting with my good friend, the misdemeanor man himself, Craig Russell, the hustle, the muscle. Craig, you cannot end a segment without permission and consent from your co-host and friend, yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt. If you do, it carries 0 to 93 days in jail with community service. You need to get out there, pick up some garbage on the side of the highway, my highway, 2-mile stretches in both directions, baby, along 127, and I want proof that you did so.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I was mostly kidding when I said, hey, why don't you reach over the console and put me under citizen's arrest? Idiot reaches over the console, has a pair of handcuffs me to the console. I'm just joking. Not really.
I got to return those handcuffs, by the way.
I know you do. Yeah, I don't even want to know where you got them from. But we were talking, that's one thing we were talking about. You know, this is a show about law. Now, most of the time we talk about your specialty, which, of course, if people have any kind of issues with driver's license restoration or drunk driving or minor possession or anything like that, if you're a parent listening, maybe your kids are on your way home from finals and back from school, if you ever need Todd Services, 989-772-6000, Todd Levitt, the man to call. He's the one who will help you out. But from time to time, we vary off from talking about things like cannabis or talking about driver's license restoration. We talk about the law in general. This is, what is the name of the show?
Law Show, baby. By the way, I do represent a lot of, not to imply that these individuals get in trouble, but I'm honored to have represented the iron workers out there,
right,
the auto workers,
yep,
a lot of union guys and non-union guys, men and women, a lot of guys working the highways, working, directional. I definitely have helped out a lot in the direction of the oil and gas industry, working the natural gas pipelines. We've got a lot of men and women who are currently working in the state of Michigan, from all over the country, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, who are welders and fabricators working throughout the state. So we have some great men and women. I get to meet some really great people out there. Look, who of you out there in your lifetime, has not made a poor decision or a poor choice? I'm raising my hand. I have multiple times. When I was younger, I got in trouble.
If my hand wasn't attached to the console right now with these handcuffs, I'd be raising my hand. I know.
Yeah, you look cute in those pink, fluffy handcuffs, by the way. But again, I've had an opportunity to meet some great men and women out there. And again, I don't judge people. Why would I judge people when, in my youth, I was one who made some poor choices and learned from it. And that's why I like helping people, because I get it. When somebody's in my office and I'm listening to their story, often I'll put myself in their shoes and say, you know what? I remember that. I remember looking at the sadness in my mom's eyes when once again, she was told, hey, your son, he did this or he did that, or, you got to come down to the school and pick him up because we're kicking him out. So,
know what? The statute of limitations is expired. What'd you do that was so bad? You can tell us. Come on.
You I don't know. Most people felt in Berkeley High that I worked in a principal's office. That's all I'm going to say, because at any given day, my sophomore, junior, and then unfortunately, his senior year, I finally got it together. But my sophomore and junior year, I was most likely to be found either not in school or in the principal's office. So after I got out of Berkeley High, I did spend a year at Oakland Community College trying to get my act together, which I did before I transferred to the great University of Central Michigan University. But Craig, with that being said, we're talking about misdemeanors.
Yes.
So pick any letter in the alphabet, and I'll discuss that misdemeanor.
All right. I'm going to pick the letter D. Give me the letter D.
The letter D, as in double D, Todd, spells Todd.
Right.
So in the state of Michigan, off the top of my head, disorderly conduct. Now, disorderly conduct carries 0 to 90 days in jail typically. Disorderly conduct can be a number of things. It could be urinating in public. It could be, having a loud party that disrupts your neighbors. It could be jostling, pushing each other back and forth, whereby it doesn't rise to the level of an assault. So disorderly conduct is being disorderly. So there's a multitude of ways communities define disorderly. Typically, a disorderly conduct is contained in the local township or city ordinances. And when I refer to a city ordinance, a community like a city is a sovereign entity that has ordinances that parallel state laws. For instance, there's a disorderly conduct, let's say hypothetically, at the state level. There's also disorderly conduct at the local level. So if a city police officer gives you a ticket for disorderly conduct, there's a good chance he or she is writing it under the city ordinance, and it just goes to who gets the money in the end. So when you're paying your fines and costs, how are those fines and fees distributed? And a lot of people out there feel this way, that it's all about money, and they can't get out of the system. Disturbing the peace is similar to disorderly conduct. Disturbing the peace is 0 to 90 days, up to $500 in fine. Unfortunately, driving on a suspended or denied license, first offense carries 0 to 93 days in jail. Driving on an invalid or expired driver's license also carries up to 93 days in jail.
All right, let me give you another one. How about letter M? Give me letter M.
M is in mommy?
Yes.
M.
I
Okay.
want my mommy.
Well, we have you want your mommy. Well, we have minor in possession consumption of alcohol, MIP, which now in the state of Michigan and other states is a civil infraction. In other cases, though, if you already had one civil infraction and it's your second time getting an MIP, it will rise to the level of a misdemeanor, at least in the state of Michigan. You'll have to check your respective state for what that is. So if you're under 21 years of age and you're living in a state in which it's illegal to possess or consume alcohol, you could be ticketed for MIP, minor purchase, possess, or consume alcohol. Most states do have statutes for minor in possession of tobacco products. You cannot purchase certain tobacco products without being a certain age. Obviously, something, I'm not happy about marijuana use or possession. Unfortunately, folks, it's still on the books, even though, there's still statutes out there in various states throughout our great country. Malicious destruction of property, we talked about that earlier. If it's between $200 to $1,000, it's a misdemeanor. It carries up to a year in jail. Anything over certain dollar amounts, a felony in most states. How about malicious use of a telecommunication device, Craig? So, yeah, that carries 0 to 6 months in jail. Malicious use of a telecommunications device.
What is that?
Well, it's any time you use any type of telephonic device in a malicious way to threaten, intimidate, or to extort somebody on the other end. And again, the intent has to be there. So,
I understand. I was wondering how that would work out. So, like, if you call up somebody and you threaten, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to beat you senseless, blah blah blah. That's what that is.
Correct.
Okay. How about
and there is a felony charge for that as well. So, let's say there's somebody who's threatened, and that person who feels threatened is trying to get to his or her phone, but the person doing the threatening takes that phone and just throws it against the wall. You're looking at a felony, my friends.
Wow, that's a felony.
And the courts take that extremely serious. You want to know one of my biggest pet peeves of misdemeanors that are out there is individuals who fail to yield to emergency responder vehicles. I cannot tell you how that just upsets me when I see the great men and women who, one, don't even get paid enough to do what they're doing to save our lives, our family members, who are on their way to an accident, to someone's house, to someone's place of business, to a sporting event, to assist somebody and save somebody's life. And you see these idiots out there, you can see the lights coming, and they fail to yield to these emergency responder vehicles. That is a misdemeanor in most states. At least in Michigan, it carries 0 to 90 days in jail.
So be wary of that. Don't do that. That's bad. But so if I'm hearing what you're saying, there are some misdemeanors that are also felonies. Does every misdemeanor have a second stage that makes it a felony?
Well, no, it's not necessarily on the books as a high misdemeanor. But if you take a felony and let's say, for instance, you attempted to resist and obstruct a police officer. First off, don't do that. We support law enforcement. Big shout out to all the men and women who put their lives on the line every day in the ditch and out there, responding to those 911 calls. So, big shout out to those men and women. I'm a defense attorney, but I still support law enforcement. And of course, we love our military. So big shout out to all the men and women serving our military, and especially the vets and their families. Always got to give those great men and women shout outs. But so yeah, back to your answer. Exactly. And there's the charge of resisting obstructing or disobeying an officer when he or she is clearly in uniform and giving you a command. If you resist that officer's instructions, and there's various ways people do that, then you will be charged with a felony. There is an attempted resisting and obstructing, which lowers it to a high misdemeanor. Now, for purposes of plea and conviction, when you're before the judge, you're pleading to a high misdemeanor. For purposes of sentencing guidelines, if for some reason 3 to 4 years down the road you pick up another felony and you're charged and convicted of that felony, the previous high misdemeanor will be considered a felony for adding up your guidelines. There's something called sentencing guidelines in most states across the country. And once you accumulate a certain amount of points within the guidelines, then you're looking at a certain amount of minimum versus maximum amount of jail and or prison time. So high misdemeanors, folks, be careful. If you have an attorney, make sure he or she understands how to calculate the guidelines. That's what a high misdemeanor is.
Well, then, seeing that right there, when you're telling me all this stuff.
It does when you're calculating.
When you're saying all this stuff to me, it sounds super confusing. But, of course, I'm not a lawyer. That's why we have you, because it's the advice. I'm sure if somebody just came into your office and said, "Hey, Todd, explain to me misdemeanors," you'd probably charge them $250 an hour. You're getting this advice for free
Not
right
at
now.
all.
No.
Well, listen, I'm one of those lawyers out there. I give out free advice in most cases.
And that's awesome, and that's one of the reasons we like you so much. But it's just...
Give me one more letter, Craig. Come on,
You
give
want
me
one
one
more?
more.
Okay,
Bring it on. Bring it on. Give me one more. And again, I have nothing in front. Do I have anything in front of me? I'm just talking off my cuff here.
I'm going to give you a letter. How about I'm going to give you the letter. This will be a hard one. O. Go.
Come on, Craig. Are you kidding me? Operating while intoxicated, operating with a high BAC, operating while visibly impaired, operating while intoxicated, second offense, operating with the presence of drugs, operating with the presence of drugs, second offense. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So come on, throw one more at me before we have to go to break. Come on, Craig.
Right.
Come on, Craig.
Take
the handcuffs off and throw one at me.
I want to change my letter now. How about Z?
How about a vowel? Pick a vowel.
How about, okay, you want a vowel?
You want a Z? You want attorney Todd? I'll give you a Z.
Give me
Zero
a Z.
tolerance, person under 21 with a BAC, baby.
Yeah, there you go. How about A?
A, allowing unlicensed person to operate a motor vehicle. How about an animal control violation? How about assault and battery?
E.
Oh, come on, Craig.
E.
Oh, boy. Embezzlement. There you go. We talked about it a moment ago.
I.
Embezzlement under... Oh, boy. I? You got me there. I don't think I. Oh, no. No, I do have an I. I do have an I.
Yeah.
Ignition interlock.
Okay.
Unauthorized removal of an ignition interlock device, believe it or not, is a 90-day misdemeanor. And there's other offenses where it carries up to 180 days if you violate the terms and conditions of your ignition interlock device, otherwise known as a blow-and-go device. And Craig, I've said it before, we're not just here for a long time, but we're here for a good time.
That's right. And we already did O, and give me U. You got anything for you? You got a U?
Yeah, urinate in public, buddy.
Yeah, okay.
How many of us guys haven't done that in the last 2 days? But look, one of the things, there's a misconception about urinating in public.
2 days?
Let's just say what it is. We're guys, right? I know we're a family show in most cases. There's nothing that is better than just stepping out onto great Mother Earth as we float around on this space rock and just in public, in the woods,
or
there's nobody around.
Okay.
Look, I'm not recommending anybody break the law. I'm just saying. But if you're at hunting camp or you're camping out somewhere with a group or individual, first off, make sure there's nobody of the opposite sex around, children and other adults. If for some reason you're out in the bush and you have to do what we do and let it free flow, just make sure it's in private. And all seriousness. But again, I think most of us guys out there will agree that to just, step out the back deck or the back porch when there's nobody around, especially if you live out in the sticks like we do, nothing better than that.
And on that happy note, we have to take a break.
But wait. I get these cases from these students who are charged with urinating in public, which, by the way, carries 0 to 90 days in jail. And if it's a 90-day misdemeanor, it does not get reported on your criminal history. And I get calls from their parents who are concerned that because they got caught urinating in public, they're going to end up on the sex offender list.
Wow.
And that's nothing to joke about, by the way. There's a lot of, I'm not joking about that, but yeah, that is not the case. If you're a student and you're drunk, first of all, don't do this because we're not recommending anyone break the law. We do use satire on this show, and then we like to exercise our First Amendment. But if you do get a charge, if you're in a college town with urinating in public, it's typically you're leaving a bar, you're too intoxicated, the line at the bathroom was too long, and so these students go outside and they get caught doing that. You will not end up on a registry for doing that unless there's some, circumstances that we're not discussing. Then you've got other concerns.
Wow. Okay. And again, on that,
a lot of info here.
Yeah, no kidding. My head is spinning right now. We better take a break.
You're in handcuffs to boot, so just keep it spinning because you're staying under house arrest right now, Craig, for ending my segment earlier in the second segment. By the way,
you're not going to let this segment end, are you?
No, I'm not, because I got a big I got a big shout out to a guy I met at a gas station. His name is Doug Stewart up in Standish. Good guy. So big shout out to the Stewarts. Doug Stewart. I love Standish. I went to court there. I went to law school with Judge Volbach. So big shout out to my buddy from law school, the Honorable Richard Volbach. He does a great job there. Yeah, we went to law school together. We spent every day together for 3 years in law school, and that's all I have to say about that.
So then now you just go ahead. I guess we should probably take a break now. Let's take a break, Craig.
Craig, I think we should probably take a break now. What do you say?
Yeah, we should take a break. Yes.
Take a break. Take us out and bring us back. Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show with permission and consent to bring you information and entertainment with my good friend Craig Russell, the Hustle, and the Black Diamond Group Mothership in the middle of the mitten. Podcasting, by the way, Craig, all over planet Earth, and proud of it in every state in this great country of ours. And getting back to the show here of all shows, by the way, we are coming back strong, folks, with the 420 Canna Hemp Expo this year. Emails have gone out to all participants from last year's show, Craig, and that took place at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort and will take place again on Saturday, April 18th of 2020, the 420 Canna Expo. This year, we are opening the doors to all of the CBD companies and products and hemp producers out there. If you're interested in being part of the show, just go online and check out the site 420cannaexpo.com. It has all the information on there. It has exhibitor space information, sponsorship. We're going to have speakers there again. Denise Porlicello's coming back. Scott Roberts will be back. We have a lot of great exhibitors who are already slated to be back on the exhibitor floor for the April 18, 2020.
It's only going to be bigger and better than it was last year. It was
free to the public.
Yep, totally.
Unlike
free.
most other expos, this Cannabis Hemp Expo is free to the public. Put it on your calendar. We had over 3,000 people last year. We're expecting more this year.
It's going to be fantastic. Getting back to the misdemeanors before we got to go. I've got a couple more letters that I want to give you. How about the letter R? Tell me about misdemeanors under the letter R.
Reckless driving, 6 points on your driving record, carries license suspension for 30 days, followed by 5 months with restrictions. How about a restricted license violation? How about retail fraud in a third degree, second degree, Craig Russell? Give me another letter.
How about the letter W? Give me W.
You got me there.
No, really? I got you on W? Yep. There's no W?
Got me on misdemeanors on W. Can't even think of anything off the top of my head.
All right, how about B?
How about
B?
Here's a W for you.
Okay.
Weeing in public. Weeing in public.
I don't think that's a technical term. I really don't. Oh, God.
I gotta go wee-wee.
All right, how about B? You got anything for B?
Yeah, breaking an entry. That could be a misdemeanor in some cases.
I dare.
But larceny from a building, you break into an office or a house, that's home invasion or illegal entry. Now you're talking some serious felonies there with the home invasion.
How about the letter F?
The letter F, we talked about this earlier, failed to yield to an emergency responder. How about fail to report or stop at a property damage accident? That's another 6-point misdemeanor in the state of Michigan.
I got one more, K. Give me K.
Oh boy. Yeah, you got me there.
Wow. I'm amazed.
Yeah. No, I can't think of any K's in Michigan as misdemeanors. Come on, Craig. Bring it on.
N.
NSF check, non-sufficient funds in the check. $100 to $500 is a misdemeanor. Anywhere larger dollar amount, you're looking at felonies. NSF, non-sufficient funds. And nuisance party.
Nuisance party.
No insurance.
The last one, I.
We talked about that earlier. Ignition airlock violations.
Oh, that's right. Then okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I think you covered the entire alpha. How about C's? Contempt of court, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I don't remember any C's there, so there's some C's for you.
How about L? Locking up your co-host with fuzzy pink handcuffs. So
Larceny. Larceny.
All right.
You know, one of the things that I know we have to close up the show here.
Yeah.
But there's something called larceny by conversion. How about larceny by conversion, where somebody loans you a personal item or their personal property, and you have permission to possess that property, but after a reasonable amount of time, you fail to return that property, and you have the intent to never return that property, you can be charged with larceny by conversion. So you converted that individual's personal property to your personal use. Larceny by conversion.
I remember that one.
That's all I got to say about that.
I remember that one. We talked about that one when somebody leaves a laptop at your house, the laptop story, and you decide you're going to keep the laptop, and then you sell that laptop or something like that. That's that whole thing. So, hey, Todd,
the person who purchased a laptop could be charged with receiving and concealing stolen property, even though he or she didn't know that they were receiving and concealing stolen property. So, folks, there's a lot of stores out there. There's a lot of marketplaces out there online. Be sure that you're not purchasing stolen property so you don't end up receiving and concealing stolen property.
And on that happy note, we have got to get out of here. The show's over, Todd. We got to go.
Craig, I did not give you permission and consent to end the show, but with that being said, we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. We'll see you next week right here in the mothership in the middle of Minton, a green nutrient field. Take us out with some cult. See you next time.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Mallywell Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, Clear Vision Windows, Siding, Roofing, and Attic Installation of Midland, Mackinac Properties and Northern Michigan Vacation Rentals, buying, selling, and renting properties in the Straits of Mackinac region since 1998, Tim's Collision Plus in Roscommon, Harrison Power Sports, Central Michigan's fastest-growing full-line Arctic Cat dealer, and Dr. Robert Townsend in Denali Healthcare for your alternative healthcare needs.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.